This is the cardiac team at the hospital. What happened on Friday? Your heart went into failure. Yeah, my name's Jacob. I'm one of the missionaries here at Craig Lodge. I'm from Ballymena, County Antrim, in the north of Ireland. Yeah, so before I came to the mission house, I thought I was doing pretty well in life. I had just come out of work. I was a bit burnt out, but I was in the process of joining the church, doing RCIA. I had friends who were Catholics. I was studying my faith. I had friends at home. I had my own apartment. Life was going well, but really, if I'm honest, I was really insecure. I had a lot of inner healing that needed done, and so a lot of work came through. Physically, I had long hair, a goatee. I sort of was hiding from those around me, really, while pretending to be happy. Yeah, so how I ended up at the mission house was I was doing RCIA, and again, I had just come out of work, and I was talking to my RCIA director, who was a religious at the time, and I said, I just don't know what I want to do after summer. I don't want to go back into work. Like, I feel physically exhausted and mentally exhausted, and I just don't know what to do. And he just sort of does this thing holy men do, right? They sort of look at you for a bit, like right into you, and he said, well, Jacob, usually we recommend people like you go to Craig Lodge, and they're actually just starting this mission house program. I think you'd be a great fit. And as you do, I said, that sounds great. I looked at the website and I thought, this looks amazing. And then I didn't apply for 3 weeks. So what ended up happening was I was at another service in Derry, which is north of where I live. And I just had a friend that knew I was meant to come here, thank the Lord, and he just was on me about it. And so the night I applied, it was the night applications closed. And so I sent off my application, and here I am. Intimidating in a good way. I feel like there's a lot going on. So for a bit of background, I come from a Protestant sort of Pentecostal charismatic background, and so there was a lot, like, I'd grown a bit jaded by some of that stuff. So the first time coming to mission house, we learned to do prayer ministry with people. We learned how to like talk on the street about our faith and stuff I'd grown up with, but it's sort of gone a bit cold too. And so over the course of our classes or discussions, like, and there's these 7 other people that I think are gonna have to put up with me for this time. And when you're insecure, it's hard to believe people actually enjoy having you around. And so yeah, it was a wee bit intimidating when I first arrived, but we got there, I think. Yeah, I've received a lot of blessings from the mission house. It sort of would be hard to narrow down just one. I think community is the biggest one. It's also the hardest one. I've been aware this year that, like, your other missionaries, my other missionaries, they're a great gift to us from God. And the trouble with that is you want to steward it well. At least I do. I put a lot of pressure on myself about living in community. But like particularly remember one day, it was just closing up. We just finished our service day, and I walked in. I was having a really low mental health day, like just not feeling good about myself. I probably looked miserable too, because everyone sort of knew. And I walked into the kitchen, and I just caved. I just said, guys, like, I really need some prayer. And so they started praying with me. Like, Paul was there, a few of the community members were there, and all the missionaries were there. And over the course of the prayer, one of the missionaries just got this real sense from the Lord, which is entirely true. She said, Jacob, I just got the feeling that you feel like we think you're annoying and we don't want you here, and that's not true. And what she said to me is, actually, you remind me a lot of one of my little brothers, and that sense of like fraternity and that sense of like community, like they actually enjoyed having me around. And that, like, man, doesn't make a man cry. I don't know what does. Oh, that's great. Yeah, so I have a cardiac history. I have heart problems. I had a sinus tachycardia, as was the diagnosis, and a arrhythmia, which means my heart beat at like a different rhythm, and sometimes it would like speed up quite a lot, be a very irregular heartbeat. And so as a result of that, I have in my chest a loop recorder and an activator. So when I feel like an episode's coming on, I actually press this button and it records my sort of symptoms of my heart. And so it was about October time, and I had been in bed I've been sleeping, and I woke up, and oh my gosh, was my chest in a lot of pain. Like, I actually couldn't really speak. I actually was like winded with it. I was so sore, and yeah, it was gurgling. There's like a bubbling in my heart, which is like, that's never a good sign. Um, and so luckily it was a Friday, so we had our phones on us, and I got Siri on my phone using voice commands very slowly to call another one of the missionaries who's a nurse. And so basically I stay on the bottom floor of our annex, and so a few of them come down the stairs hearing something's wrong and open the door. And according to the other missionary, I looked grey. Like, my skin was like ghastly. It was awful. And like I just couldn't really get words, so I just could say something's wrong. And so they went and they got Max, one of the formators who's on this course, and he came in. They called an ambulance, as they should have. Like, really, really wise decision. They called an ambulance, got it right, but it'd be a bit of a wait. And as the wait was going on, this was getting worse. Like, my heart was bubbling and gurgling, and like, you actually put your hand on my chest, you could feel it. Like, really unnatural stuff. And so we just did what Christians should do. We just prayed. They just prayed with me. And as far as I've been told by the other missionary, like, as soon as we prayed, like, the colour came back to me a wee bit. I still felt really rough. And so I ended up in hospital overnight. They couldn't find any problems. They did a bunch of blood tests on my heart to see what was going on, and they couldn't find any damage to my heart or anything, so they didn't think that was the problem. And so, like I said, that was a Friday. So on the Monday, it's the afternoon, and this device in my heart actually uploads like a remote computer from my hospital team back home to view. So I get a call from a withheld number, which is probably a doctor with my history, so I answer it. I'm like, hey, is that Jacob? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, this is the cardiac team at the hospital. What happened on Friday? And I was like, oh, you guys know about that. That's really good. They're like, no, your heart went into failure. So what would happen, the gurgling in my chest and my heart rate was slowing down like a lot. And my heart was slowing. It was just going to stop beating. And so that gurgling was like blood not being pumped out of my heart fast enough. And they said, but at this specific time, about 11:15, your heart just went back to normal. And so I went to Max again and said, Max, what time did we phone the ambulance? So we looked at the phone record that he had, and it was 9:13, so about 2 minutes on the phone to the ambulance, no problem. After that, they prayed for me, and according to the hospital, my heart stopped dying. I stopped dying, and yeah, my heart's been fine ever since. Recently, we had our last encounter, class 2, and the same missionary who came in that night and found me actually dying in my bed got a word from me that the Lord wanted to put a new heart and a new spirit within me, and she thought it was kind of like, like a metaphorical thing, but she did a prophetic act where she put a new heart in me, and as she did that, my heart stopped beating, and I thought I was dead. I thought she'd just killed me, but then my heart started again, like a full second, like I was like, and my heart felt different. It beats normally now. I don't have arrhythmia. I don't believe I have a sinus tachycardia anymore. It's pretty awesome. The piece of advice I would give future missionaries is the advice I hate hearing the most, and it's lean in. So there's going to be times in community life or in ministry life where you're going to be really uncomfortable. It's going to be really frustrating. And it's going to be effort, and you got to lean into those moments, like, because again, like I said earlier, like, you're missionaries, the people you minister to, they're gifts to you, and you want to treat that right, even when you're not getting that back sometimes. And so a big piece of practical advice on leaning in is when someone's frustrating you, when someone's getting on your nerves or said something that maybe hits you the wrong way, bless them, find a way to honor them and build them up. And actually, when you do that, when you love someone correctly, you can't be mad at people and bless them. You really can't. Like, pray for them, because when you pray for someone, you learn to love them. Man, if that doesn't make a man cry, I don't know what does.